What about it, YouTube? Alright, I was listening to a guy talk about depression, and he was explaining how the medical community, whatever that means, has never really come to a consensus that depression is strictly a chemical imbalance. But he was saying that kind of took off mainly due to drug company propaganda so that they could sell antipsychotics and mood pills and whatever else, right? So he was saying that the studies that have been done over the last 20 years since that false notion started to sort of take off unwarranted was that now he's claiming that generally the medical community has poo-pooed that as being the root issue and the main go-to when confronting depression, and that there's been studies again that show what does help. And it was interesting because he said that when one of the best ways for a person to get out of a depressed state of mind is to do things for other people. And then by enriching the lives of others and witnessing their delight, then you become enriched, then you become satisfied, and it makes sense, right? It makes sense. So you do things for other people, and then you feel like a boost in your self-esteem and your self-worth, in your purpose, and all those good things, right? So it's not just some little balance of serotonin and dopamine that you need to worry about. It's essentially getting along in family and community that is going to help you live a happy, healthy life. Okay? So, what can we take from this? And what can we really take from it in a wider scope? Well, I think, it's, and they even use the word cooperation. I think it shows that cooperation within a group, call it a community, a tribe, whatever you want to call it, cooperation and helping each other is what will make the group successful and happy and live a happy, healthy life. Okay? So, then it becomes the thought, okay, well, what's happened to our groups? What's happened to our groups and I guess, how do you get it back? I don't know. We'll try and explore that too, I guess. But, for instance, I was born in a Mormon community, and Mormons helped each other. There's all kinds of ways Mormons helped each other. In fact, once a month you go around as a Mormon as what's called a home teacher, and then the women actually go around. The home teacher thing is a male operation, and then the visiting teacher thing is a female operation. But they essentially are the same, where you go around and you, once a month, you make contact with a few members of your, what they call a ward, which is your little church community that meets and every Sunday and sees each other. And anyway, you get to have contact once a month. And the main thing, really, the main thing, sometimes you'd sit and chit-chat, and sometimes it would just be right quick. It would just be, ring the doorbell, they answer you, say, hey, don't mean to bother you if it's a bad time, but we just wanted to, stop by. briefly to see if everything's okay, if there's anything you need, and I mean, so the Mormons had this type of cooperation, and it was in a defined group of people, and anyone's welcome to join, right? So it's not like they were exclusive, or I mean, in the old days they had the Mormon massacre, so I guess you could argue that at one point they were combative towards outsiders, but times change, and the Mormon institution that I was brought up under didn't. They send out missionaries. I mean, they have the widest open arms of anybody. Okay. Well, that's great, right? So I got to experience this thing that's being discussed of cooperating and helping the community, stay uplifted, and not fall into despair or negativity, whatever, depression. Okay, well, that's been many years ago. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, I think they probably still do the same things, but I don't know if it has the same, I'm looking for the word, validity, the same earnest love behind it, if you will. Because even a lot of what, and I'm not intimately involved, so I'm just kind of speculating from the outside at this point, but just being in contact with my family and seeing kind of what goes on, it almost seems like Mormonism's turned into appearances. And so you appear, that you're godly, and you appear that that you give a shit. But do you? I don't know. Right? Like when I was involved with it, I feel like, we really gave a shit. We would really, the scouts would go do service jobs. We'd go get people out when it was bad ice and they couldn't get out of their driveway. We'd mow lawns for people that were down and out. And it was no big deal. I mean, as a kid, I guess I would have rather been screwing around than having to, go mow somebody's lawn. But it wasn't that big a deal, And at the end of it, you feel good because you did something good, Again, at the time when I was a kid, I probably didn't need that ego boost in that way and didn't appreciate it for what it was in that way. But now looking back, it wasn't a big deal, and I felt good about it, and the people obviously appreciated it. So, anyway, now it's kind of dwindled, and that's the only experience I've had, but any of the institutions, it may be argued, have kind of become milquetoast like that as well, right? Like whatever, I don't know how other people do it. All I know is how Mormons did it. But perhaps there were, similar things within this group of Christians over here or this other group of Christians over here or whatever. But I'm afraid that it may be that whatever was in place has become milquetoast, and maybe it's very possible that the other guys didn't have as good of a community outreach as the Mormons and community network and touchy, make sure everything's cool, So, I don't know if everything's gone milquetoast. Then what is that? That kind of goes back to when I did that video on what will the Jew world order feel like, because as it becomes more individualistic, it becomes harder to avoid despair and depression. As less and less people, also a part of that discussion was, it used to be a few years ago, you asked somebody, how many people could you rely on in a fix? And they would say 5 people. Like, I have 5 close people in my life that if I was in trouble, I could contact. The majority of people now say there's really no one I can think of if the crap hits the fan that'll help me. I mean, that's what they said. I find it hard to believe that it's no one. You think there'd be at least one. But another thing was that most people can't work their way out of a $1,000 crisis that might hit them. Now, some of these things might be exaggerated. I don't know. But the message of it is that you're being put under more and more pressure because it's all falling on you to get things done, and it's all you. You know, it's just you. You feel so alone, right? And you don't know who you can trust, who you can go and talk to, and who you can network with, because you know, in life, more and more you get burnt. You know, you want to have this default trust when you go out there so that you can engage at all in the community. I mean, if you thought that every single person was going to jack you up, you wouldn't even talk to a single person at all, right? So you go out there with some kind of a blind trust that's supposed to work out for you, you know, more than not. But that ratio seems to be sliding. It seems to be where people are using that blind trust and taking advantage to the point where, you know, you're under more pressure. You get burnt. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times I've been burnt in little ways here and there. You know, I mean, just people that, you know, they take you for this or they take you for that, or they take advantage, or you have a verbal agreement on one thing and then it turns out different. And so I mean, I'm sure that it just goes on. And also when you are surrounded by that way of doing things, it's almost like you feel like you need to become part of it. So I think that's a lot of it too, is more of it starts happening because more people feel like, hey, you know, when in Rome, do like the Romans. If this is how you do things, you know, if you're just a little bitch that runs around scheming, then, and that's how you get ahead, then I guess I got to turn into a little bitch that runs around scheming. So, you know, then there's the depression part of it, right? There's the not feeling that juice from being part of the community and helping out the community and being cooperative in the community. So, you know, it's just a bad recipe, right? And, I mean, the family's being destroyed. Like I say, whatever community, institutional thing that Mormonism once kind of felt like, I think has kind of slipped. So I'm just saying that it's as people, as well, again, as the people who rejected Jesus and went about dethroning God and went about creating revolution and culture wars and instability and strife everywhere, okay, and funded wars and funded aggression and funded all this chaos. Okay, those people, all right, know who they are, right? They're over in the Middle East butchering out Palestinians right now. Those people made sure that we would slowly but surely take God out of school, out of science, out of medicine, out of education, I said school, out of politics. So everything's secular, right?